Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode I will discuss the astrology for the week of July 23rd, 2023. It was such a joy to present my work for the International Society for Astrological Research. That's isar.org. If you missed it and are a member, it should be, my talk on the moon phase family should be in the library. It was such a warm welcome. I so appreciated it. And it was just fantastic going to San Diego and giving the talk in person for the San Diego Astrological Society, and then having a 3-hour moon mastery workshop on that Saturday of it was the 14th and 15th. Anyway, I had just an incredible time. If you're local in San Diego, I highly recommend the organization. They have some great talks, and the people were just so warm and welcoming, and it was just a wonderful experience. There is so much going on this summer. I'm back in my office. So if you feel like you need any kind of support, I recommend coming for an astrology reading. You can go to my services page to see the different types of readings. If you've been on the fence, book it now, because I'm going to be doing some review during Venus Retrograde, which started yesterday, about my pricing and things like that. So come before I make any changes. You can book up to 4 months in advance. The theme of this week is cruel summer. So just to rewind about some of the big things that are happening astrologically. So last week we had a new moon at 24 Cancer, and it was such an important new moon because the nodes switched signs soon after the new moon. From the North Node went into Aries and the South Node went into Libra. You can buy the recording for my new moon workshop if you're interested at the link in the show notes. I have a personal astrology in action story for you. So as a Cancer rising, my ascendant is at 20 degrees of Cancer, almost 21. This new moon was in my first house. The first house rules our physical body, our vitality, our identity, our appearance. And the closer an activation by lunation or a transit is to your ascendant, the more likely there'll be a personal story. So on the day of the new moon, I went to Pilates feeling great, had an amazing workout, but was starving afterwards and needed to go to Safeway, the grocery store, and got some Chinese food off of their steam table, something I would normally never do, but I was really hungry. And I thought about it. I was like, ooh, those salt and pepper pork chops look good, but they're not healthy. I shouldn't have any, but I got some. Came home, took a bite before I was going to walk Debo just because I was starving. And poof, I broke my front tooth when I was a child on a jungle gym. And so I have like this filling on the edge of my tooth that I've had to replace once before when there was some kind of accident. I would love if I could remember the date. Anyway, so I look at my chart, of course, and realize, and I was a little concerned about what this could mean, but I have Jupiter at 29 degrees of Libra. And so when the South Node moved into Libra, it moved towards conjoining with my Jupiter. And Jupiter rules my 6th house of bad fortune, that also like burdens, toil, things that go wrong with your health are all 6th house topics. At the time that this happened, the moon had moved to 29 degrees of Cancer. And so the moon in Cancer, which rules food and the stomach, was squaring my natal Jupiter and the South Node at 29 degrees of Libra. The South Node is considered malefic. It is a drain, a point of loss. And then Pluto in the sky is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn rules the teeth. Pluto breaks things down that needs to be rebuilt. And the North Node was in Aries at 29 Aries. And Aries rules the head. So literally, I was eating, had this bad fortune where my filling fell off and it needs to be rebuilt by my dentist. And so I called the dentist the next morning and they tell me they're going on vacation for 2 weeks, that I can't get in until August 1st. How Venus retrograde. Anyway, they called me back later and said I can come while I'm taping this. I'm supposed to go tomorrow. I taped this early. But anyway, so I should be able to get it fixed within a couple of days. They're going to squeeze me in before they go on vacation. I've been with them for decades. But this is how astrology gets so literal. I knew there was going to be a problem. Also, my dog, which is also a sixth house topic, got a little ill because I gave him a bone because I felt bad because I'd been gone for so long. And yeah, he had a little stomach upset. So my dog has stomach upsets. I mess with my tooth. I'm really going to be extra careful the next couple of weeks while the South Node is still at 29 degrees of Libra, because I could have other misfortune. And it was part of my Venus retrograde story. I knew I would have unexpected expenses, and fixing my tooth is just one of them. So that's part of my cruel summer story, although things could be a lot worse, knock on wood. So there's 3 big things I want you to think about this week. The first is that Mercury is the VIP of the week. And Mercury does a lot of wonderful things. Mercury can articulate and negotiate, find patterns, analyze. It rules our thought processes, communication, commerce, and transportation. Mercury also destabilizes and argues, and it's traveling in the sign of Leo, which in modern astrology, Mercury is considered to be exalted in Aquarius and in detriment in Leo. Because in Leo, a lot of what people are saying or focusing on or thinking about is more concerned with the self rather than the collective, possibly. Leo is also a sign that can bring the drama. So the first thing that happens during this week is that on Sunday, Mercury will square Uranus. And that is an announcement of a strike, is part of the delineation of that. It could also be an announcement of like violation of land boundaries. When Hitler invaded Poland, Mercury was in Leo and Uranus was in Taurus, exactly what we have today. I'm not expecting another war, literally, but there are going to be, this is the summer of strikes. The writers have already gone on strike weeks ago. The Screen Actors Guild announced they are going on strike. UPS is going to be the big story. The United Parcel Service is a big transportation service in the United States that says that they are going on strike on August 1st, which is the day of the full moon, if they don't come to an agreement with their management. And the Teamsters announced a strike already. So yeah, there are going to be even more people or organizations going on strike as the summer goes on. We are in a period where there is this fight, this conflict between big business. Pluto and Capricorn is breaking things down in order to rebuild. And Pluto and Aquarius, like there's massive changes coming to the collective due to things like artificial intelligence and scientific advancements and climate change. And these sorts of things are having a very big impact on us as people. Pluto first went into Aquarius in March, but then has gone back into Capricorn, and it's going to go back and forth until late next year before it finally stays in Aquarius. So expect some big news of a nature that is a little shocking around Sunday. And then what happens is Mercury will go in and fill the top of the yod that Mars went through in Leo, and then Venus went through in Leo, and now Mercury comes through this yod where Pluto in Capricorn is at one side of the base and Neptune in Pisces is at the other side of the base. Yods are you've been pointed at, and with Mercury, it's about there's certain people who will be pointed at, but there's also commerce and transportation. The UPS strike is going to be a 10-day strike that's expected to have $1 billion impact on the United States economy, a $7 billion impact. It will be the most expensive strike ever. And at the full moon in Aquarius, that's happening next week, Mars in Virgo will be trine Jupiter in Taurus. So Mars in Virgo, like an action taken by Virgo, a commerce company that helps keep things efficient and on time and all of these things around, physical things, physical shipments. Trine Jupiter in Taurus, wealth. Mars cuts and separates, so cutting and separating from the wealth. And Mercury will have gone into Virgo and will be opposite Saturn in Pisces. Mercury in Virgo, this dispute with this company, you can think about how Mercury in Virgo is packages, opposite Saturn and Pisces. You're not getting anything. And one of the big things will be like people won't be getting their medication. So it's really important that you order whatever you need early, because I think the strike is going to be happening. And I think it's a big part of the story about Pluto and Capricorn squaring the nodes, the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. South Node in Libra, negotiations break down, and Venus, which negotiates as well as unites and harmonizes, is retrograde, so unable to do her Venus things with ease. And then North Node in Aries, people taking a stand and willing to fight through uncomfortable situations in order to achieve their goals. And Pluto in Capricorn, big business, trying to hold on to every penny of wealth, abusing their employees and thinking they can just get away with it. And with the CEOs making 400 times the lowest paid worker, not willing to put air condition in these people's trucks who are driving in sweltering heat. As you know, we're having the hottest summer on record, which is also part of the Venus retrograde story. So yeah, I think UPS, I think this is almost like a fated event. Maybe they'll be able to negotiate their way out of it, but I doubt it. I think the strike is coming and it's going to have a huge impact on the US economy. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Chiron will go retrograde in the sign of Aries on Sunday from July 23rd through December 26th. And when a planet goes retrograde, we maybe do some more internal work on the topics the planet rules. Chiron is an asteroid. It's not really a planet, an ice giant, not technically a planet. It's between Saturn and Uranus, called the Rainbow Bridge, but it's the wounded healer. It looks literally, the glyph looks like a key. You can look up Chiron's story in Greek mythology. It was a healer and a teacher, but it's about the wound that we have from our childhood times that never heals totally. And in the sign of the Aries, it's about the wound of the self. So a lot of people will, with this retrograde, take care of your emotional self. There could be a wonderful opportunity for some healing of old wounds, although they never totally go away. I think in the collective, it will have to do a lot with heat stroke, because Venus goes retrograde in Leo, and then Chiron and Aries, both fire signs. We're having the hottest days on record. I think a lot of people will be seeing like tremendous problems from heat. And I want to apologize. At the last episode, I said that Hunter Biden was Joe Biden's third child, and Hunter Biden is the second in line. So at the time, I had this virus and I had a fever. I don't know if I read it wrong or the site I was looking at had the wrong information. But anyway, I was talking about how, Joe Biden is very impacted by this Venus retrograde because Venus is going retrograde on his Chiron in the 9th house. And, I was kind of worried about a health problem with him, or something about his son Hunter doing something. And all of that stuff about Hunter still applies, but he's his 7th house, not his 9th house. Anyway, I'm wondering if this is not related to Hunter or Joe Biden's health, but related to the strike, because there's been all this talk about how great the economy is doing. Venus rules resources and money, and Chiron about job performance. Chiron is also, the Magi astrologers talked about how it was an asteroid has to do with people's careers as well as their marriages. So Venus retrograde stationing on his Chiron, this great, advancements in the economy and the wealth of the country was stabilizing Jupiter in Taurus. But with this strike, it could throw the U.S. into a recession. And that would be the damage that's done to him in his job approval rating. So that may be for him how this Venus retrograde is tied to the Chiron retrograde and tied to his chart specifically. On a personal level, if you are somewhere where it's impacted by big heat or are going on vacation somewhere, really think about how you can protect yourself and make some arrangements. There was some plane that got stuck on a tarmac and the people were passing out and all of this kind of stuff in Arizona. This heat is very, very serious. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Mercury, the planet of communication, will enter the sign of Virgo from July 28th to October 4th. Normally, Mercury just zips through a sign in a couple of weeks, but because it's going to go retrograde, it will stay in Virgo for a long time. It stations retrograde on August 23rd at 21 Virgo, and then stations direct September 15th at 8 Virgo. So if you have planets at 8 or 21 or mutable signs, there is going to be some story related to your life about this Mercury retrograde. Mercury is at home in domicile in Virgo. It can do its things well. Mercury loves to analyze, rationalize, argue, and find patterns, which are all Virgo things. Virgo is an earth sign. Virgo's tagline is, I bring order to chaos with, the organization. So how appropriate, while Mercury is in Virgo, this big company that takes care of bringing physical packages, Virgo and Earth sign, to people in an efficient way, is going on strike and causing, there's going to be a lot of chaos around that. But for our own lives, it's a great time to do decluttering and organizing, clear thinking, and writing projects are a great thing to do. We'll talk more about the retrograde when we get closer to it. On Sunday, the word of the day is hostilities. As we start the week, the moon is in the sign of Libra, which likes to negotiate and to bring harmony, fairness, and balance. But, people aren't being treated fairly by big business and are taking a stand. And Venus, which rules Libra, is currently retrograde. Retrograde planets to have the ability to do damage. Yeah, damage to the economy. Venus went retrograde and a quincunx to Pluto and Capricorn, and the United States is in a Pluto return, and it has Pluto in the 2nd house, and that is about finances and resources. So, yeah, think about that. Mercury squares Uranus on this day. Mercury in Leo, Uranus in Taurus, both at 22 degrees. This is the day Chiron goes retrograde, and Mercury and Mars are parallel. Mercury destabilizes and argues. Mars is conflict. Parallels are like a conjunction. People are in fighting moods right now. You can hear people maybe shouting about the strike. See what's going on the cable news shows. There'll probably be a lot of contentious talking where people show up and show out with that Mercury and Leo. And yeah, a lot of arguing potentially. On Monday, the word of the day is preparation. There are lots of moon aspects, but nothing else is really going on in the sky. I want you to order excesses of anything you need to get yourself through the next several weeks, even months. You know, it's better to have your staples like toilet paper or whatever at home, so that when the strikes happen, you know, you're not going to be able to get certain things. Make sure you order your medications. Maybe ask your doctor to help you get 3 months supply ahead of time. Get extra food for your freezer if possible. Now, some people may be having power outages, so keep that in mind and maybe don't go overboard with the extra food. But take preparation for these transportation strikes where you aren't going to be able to get the items you want in time. If you're having any parties, especially a wedding, you know, order everything, ship everything early. On Tuesday, the word of the day is rupture. This is a day Pluto will square the nodes. Pluto in Capricorn, square the north node in Aries, south node in Libra, all at that 29th anaretic degree. I can see like big people at, you know, the leaders at companies or even managers or whatever, like trying to put their foot down and tell people the what's and the what's for and how you're going to do this and that and whatnot. And yeah, then the moon enters Scorpio at 9:55 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to have a first quarter moon at 2 Scorpio at 3:06 p.m. Pacific time. Scorpio is an intense energy that's willing to go to extremes for what it wants to accomplish. Used well, it's strategic. It goes underneath the surface to get, you know, really find out what's going on beneath the surface. It can be very healing. This first quarter moon dates back to the solar eclipse last October 25th when the sun and the moon met at 2 Scorpio, conjunct Venus. So you may have a story that started back then that has a pivot point if you have planets near 2 degrees of the fixed signs especially. So we're at the first quarter moon, which is a time to take action. The sun in Leo, at 2 Leo, squaring the moon at 2 Scorpio. People willing to go to extremes, things getting very dramatic and heated and tense, and the conflict can be serious. And yeah, I pity the boss that tries to tell people that this, that, or the other thing is the way it's going to be, because you'll hear what's coming up soon. But there is going to be ruptures in like negotiations around things or relationships. On Wednesday, the word of the day is resignation. The moon is contra-parallel Mercury and Mars. So this is very argumentative energy where there can be separation, severing. Mercury and Leo is King Kong's Neptune and Pisces. King Kong says, move us into new situations where we release and let go of something. So some boss started, you know, telling somebody the what for, and on Wednesday they tell them, or maybe even Tuesday, I quit. What are you going to do about it? I'm out of here. Yeah, you can make your own burgers on your own grill or whatever. On Thursday, the word of the day is sweltering. This is a day Mercury will conjunct Venus retrograde at 28 Leo. And this happens at 8:15 in the morning Pacific time. So see what goes on if you notice any kind of conversation. Typically, Mercury and Venus get together well. And in Leo, this could be like you could have a great, fun conversation. This could be lovely. But with what we're talking about, Venus is retrograde. A planet retrograde has the ability to cause harm. It delays the collapse of anything contemplated can be what happens. This could also signify negotiations breaking down. Later in the day, the moon in Scorpio will eventually square both Mercury and Venus. And the moon enters Sagittarius at 5:23 p.m. Pacific time. This can be a time where people feel like they have a cause higher than just, what's before them. Sagittarius is mutable, fiery energy. It's ruled by Jupiter. There can be a philosophy that people are thinking about. Mercury and Leo will quincunx Pluto on this day. This yod is in effect for most of the week, where it's like you've been pointed at. Yes. And Mercury and Leo will trine the North Node in Aries, both at 29, that anaretic degree of things breaking down, and the Sun parallel the North Node. I think people will literally be sweltering at places where the heat is out of control, but also people will be sweating in some of these meetings where they're trying to come to an agreement and the agreements just keep breaking down. On Friday, the word of the day is Braveheart. Really notice if someone is on TV passionately talking about what they are fighting for, especially after Mercury enters the sign of Virgo at 2:31 p.m. Pacific time, but maybe even before that. The Sun in Leo, and Leo is a dramatic, it's brave, it's courageous sign, is quincunx Saturn in Pisces. So the people in charge, Saturn, the leaders, their actions to control and dominate and to get what they want are going to be falling weak and on deaf ears. Saturn is not strong in Pisces, but the Sun sure is in Leo. There will be people who remind us of, heroes like Norma Ray or Martin Luther King or William Wallace that, stand up, that have the bravery to stand up to the authorities and say, we're not going to take this anymore. This is the day the nodes square Pluto because of the way that the nodes wobble. So Pluto squares them earlier in the week, and now the nodes square Pluto back. And this is when, the head of the union tells the head CEO to go pound sand. We are going on strike. On Saturday, the word of the day is heroic. There will be a gibbous moon at 21 degrees of Sagittarius at 6:01 a.m. Pacific time. At the gibbous moon, the moon is pregnant with possibilities. It's like we're moving towards the full moon. Emotions are getting more heated and heated. There's this fire energy in the sky. Mercury in Leo is contra-parallel Uranus in Taurus. This is people being willing to fight. Uranus in Taurus, you are not getting your package if you have not already ordered it. The moon will enter the sign of Capricorn at 8:43 p.m. Pacific time, and this is when the bosses are going to realize how much trouble they are in over this weekend, most likely. Now, there's always the possibility that they'll be able to negotiate a solution, but I don't think so with what I'm looking at with the astrology, and especially the full moon astrology. But you never know. Or it could look like we're going to not strike, and then it happens later when Mercury goes retrograde or something. So this is a big story about Venus retrograde. Yeah. And yeah, for some people, this is going to be a really, really, really difficult summer because of the weather or the strike or this, that, and the other thing. I mean, there's a lot. So can you have compassion for others? Venus retrograde now makes another quincunx to Neptune retrograde. So some people will be feeling like, crying about how their party was a disaster because people were passing out from the heat or something like that. That happens on Sunday. But yeah, we're building to that Venus retrograde. So this week, both Venus in Leo and Mercury in Leo are at tips of this yod where you've been pointed at. The transportation secretary is this is Pete Buttigieg. His sun is at 29 Capricorn. Pluto's on his sun. He is feeling the pressure and the nodes squaring. He better have his game plan tight about how he's communicating this week and not blow it off, because this is like a make or break it thing for his long-term prospects and career. Apologies, another long episode, but there's so much going on. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let your local astrology organization know I'm available for talks. And like, if we can make it work, I'd love to do them in person. So take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.